8 wins in 31 games. That's Ruben Amorim's record at Manchester United, the worst start to a Premier League season in 33 years. Yet, here he is, after getting hammered 3-0 by City, telling everyone the system isn't the problem. The players aren't the problem. So, what is the problem? And why is nobody buying what he's selling anymore? Right, so let's set the scene here. Ruben Amorim, Portuguese manager, 39 years old, came to United with serious pedigree, won 2 league titles at Sporting, played attractive football, developed young players. On paper, he was exactly what United needed after the Erik ten Hag disaster. The club backed him too, over £200 million spent on Bryan Mbeumo, Matheus Cunha and Benjamin Sesko. Proper investment in his system. Ineos, Jim Ratcliffe, everyone was singing from the same hymn sheet. This was supposed to be the start of something special, but here's the thing about football, it doesn't care about your CV, and it certainly doesn't care about your philosophy if that philosophy isn't working. And right now, yeah, it really isn't working. So, what is Amorim actually claiming? Well, if you listen to his press conferences, he's got a few key messages. First, the system stays. He delivered a defiant response to suggestions he should change his 3-4-3 system at Manchester United by saying the club must change the man if they lose faith in his philosophy. That's a direct quote after the City defeat, by the way. Not exactly what you'd call flexible, is it? He keeps talking about patience, about needing time to implement his ideas. Well, fair enough, every manager says that, but he's also pushing this narrative that the problem isn't tactical. Amorim is convinced that the problem of Man United is the mentality of the players and not his style. So, let me get this straight. You've got international players, winners, guys who've performed at the highest level for years, and suddenly they've all forgotten how to play football? The common denominator is the system, mate. But Amorim, he's sticking to his guns. He talks about building something special, about United fans deserving better. All the right words, but at some point you need results to back up the rhetoric. We are going to suffer, we have problems, but that feeling of bonding from everybody, staff, players, is really important. Well, the problem is, the suffering's been going on for months now, and the bonding, well, let's just say not everyone's feeling the love. Alright, enough about what they're saying, let's talk about what we're actually seeing, because the numbers don't lie. Manchester United have made their worst start to a Premier League season in 33 years after the 3-0 derby defeat to Man City on September 14th. 8 wins in 31 league games under Amorim. That's not a rough patch, that's relegation form from a club with United's resources.
But Bruno Fernandes has come across, and now Bernardo Silva and Haaland, 2-0. 4 minutes into the second half, and City have a huge grip on the door.
The City game was the perfect example of everything that's wrong. United lined up in that same 3-4-3, and what happened? They got picked apart. Not because City are so much better individually, though yes they are, but instead because Pep's system made Amorim's look amateurish. Despite spending more than £200 million on the signings of Bryan Mbeumo, Matheus Cunha and Benjamin Sesko this summer, Amorim's side have only found the net 4 times in 4 games so far. 4 goals from those attacking players.
I just think it's a very sad situation for Man United. I'm just racking my brains to try and think where we're going with Man United. You know, we've heard the manager say in pre-season and as soon as about 2 days ago in his press conference that we're a different team now. That looked like last season's 3rd against last season's 15th place team, which was Manchester United. I look on bigger picture, Man United have basically cleared out 8 first-team players. They brought in 3 forwards and looks like a backup goalkeeper. You know, how long does the club allow this to continue? Everybody wants to give a manager time, windows, time for philosophy, time for new players. Gosh, they don't look any different. Is spending 200 million plus on new forwards move the needle? Not yet. I know they're not all out there, and Matheus Cunha is their best attacker. But praise to Man City. You know, Phil Foden coming back was great. Erling Haaland, signature performance from Erling Haaland. Doku deserves a mention as well.
Yeah. And it's not just about the goals either. Watch how United's set up. The wing-backs are caught between defending and attacking. The midfield has massive gaps that every opponent exploits. Bruno Fernandes, one of the most creative players in the Premier League, is being asked to play deeper, and he's barely getting the ball in dangerous areas. The three at the back, it's meant to give you numerical advantage in defense, but United's defenders, they look more confused than comfortable. They don't know when to step out, when to hold the line. It's basic stuff that should have been sorted months ago. And here's the kicker, some Manchester United players, they're questioning the effectiveness of coach Ruben Amorim's tactics and man management skills. When you're losing the dressing room, when players are starting to doubt what you're doing, that's when you know you're in real trouble. But it's not just about the formation on paper, is it? There are deeper issues at play here that Amorim might have a point about, even if he's not handling them well. First, there's the squad depth problem. United have been patching holes for years, bringing in players for different systems under different managers.
Well, I mean, the question of whether he should stay or go is probably valid. You know, everyone will have seen the stat of 8 wins in 31 Premier League games. He will admit himself that that's just not good enough for any manager, probably, and particularly for a United manager. You know, we're not talking about a particularly small sample size. He was appointed in November to replace Erik ten Hag. It's not as if he's come in the summer and he's had 4 or 5 games and people are already deciding that, you know, his position should be up for debate. Lots of the stats are damning, you know, including that 8 wins in 31 Premier League games. It's also United's worst start to a Premier League campaign since 92-93, I think. So all of these things combined has led a lot of fans to start debating whether Ruben Amorim is the right man for this job. And you know, as I'm sure we'll discuss going forward in this debate, there are some who have already decided that he's not right and that United should be looking to change.
You can't just flip a switch and expect everyone to adapt to 3 at the back when half these players have never played it properly. Then there's the mentality issue. And look, this is where Amorim might actually have a point. United have been inconsistent for years. Players who look world-class one week, then anonymous the next. That's not just about tactics, that's about character. But here's where it gets tricky. As a manager, it's your job to get the best out of what you have. You can't just say, well, the mentality's wrong, and wash your hands of it. Pep didn't wait for City to buy perfect players for his system. He adapted his system to get the best out of what he had, then gradually brought in the pieces he needed. The financial side, it's real too. United aren't Manchester City. They can't just spend unlimited money. But when you're asking for patience while playing football, that's painful to watch. When you're not even getting the basics right, people are going to question whether you're the right man for the job. And that's before we even talk about the pressure. This is Manchester United. The fans have been patient for over a decade now. They've backed manager after manager, given everyone time to implement their vision. At some point, that patience runs out. So, why isn't anyone buying what Amorim's selling anymore? Simple, because we've heard it all before. Every United manager since Ferguson has had the same excuses. Give me time, trust the process, the players aren't good enough, we need to be patient. And you know what? Sometimes they were right. But the results on the pitch, they tell you everything you need to know about whether those excuses are valid. Amorim noted the key difference. Their squad was built for this system, he pointed out afterwards. He was talking about other teams that successfully play 3 at the back. But hang on a minute, you're the manager of Manchester United. You don't get to build the perfect squad from scratch, you work with what you have and make it better. Look at what other managers have done with similar challenges. Ange Postecoglou at Spurs, his system is working because he's adapted to his players. Mikel Arteta didn't just stick rigidly to what worked at City, he evolved his approach based on what Arsenal needed. But Amorim, it's not a record, 8 wins in 31 games, that he continues to use the same 3-4-3 system that he's applied since before his tenure, back when he was the manager of Portuguese side, Sporting. The problem, it's stubbornness disguised as principles. Yes, having a philosophy is important, but flexibility, that's what separates good managers from great ones. And right now, Amorim's looking more stubborn than principled. Even the players are starting to lose faith. You can see it in their body language, the way they're playing. When Fernandes is shaking his head at teammates, when your £200 million signings look lost, when you're getting outfought by teams you should be dominating. That's not just about the system, that's about leadership. And the fans, they've all seen this movie before. Different manager, same excuses, same disappointing results. At some point, you stop believing the promises and start judging on what you actually see. So, what is the solution here? Because let's be honest, sacking another manager isn't going to fix everything. United, they have bigger problems than just who's standing on the touchline. First, Amorim needs to swallow his pride and show some tactical flexibility, not abandoning his principles completely, but adapting them to what actually works with these players. Maybe that means playing 4-3-3 in certain games. Maybe it means using Bruno higher up the pitch where he's actually dangerous. Maybe it means not asking wingbacks to do jobs they're not equipped for. Look at how Pep adapted his tactics. When he first came to City, he didn't immediately implement everything he wanted. He worked with what he had and gradually evolved the team. That is what top managers do. Second, United need to sort out the recruitment. You can't keep buying players for different systems and expect them all to work together. If Amorim really believes in his 3-4-3, then buy proper wingbacks, buy centre-backs who can play in a 3, buy midfielders who can cover the ground his system requires, but most importantly, there needs to be accountability. You can't keep blaming the players, the board, the fans, the weather. At some point, the manager has to take responsibility for the results on the pitch. The crazy thing is, there are signs that Amorim's ideas could work. In flashes, you see what he's trying to do. The problem is, those flashes, they're getting rarer, and the bad performances are getting more frequent. That's not sustainable at a club like United. So, here's where we are. Ruben Amorim insists his system will work if everyone just trusts the process. The players look confused and frustrated. The fans are losing patience. And the results? Well, they speak for themselves. Manchester United have made their worst start to a Premier League season in 33 years. That's not just bad luck or a rough patch, that's a systemic failure. The tragedy is that Amorim might actually be right about some of United's problems. The mentality, the inconsistency, the lack of proper structure. These are real issues that have plagued the club for years. But being right about the diagnosis, it doesn't mean that you're right about the cure. And that's why nobody believes him anymore. Not because his analysis is wrong, but because his solution clearly isn't working. At some point, you have to change course. At some point, principles become stubbornness if they're not delivering results. The question now is whether Amorim recognizes that before it's too late. Because if he doesn't adapt, if he keeps insisting that everyone else needs to change while he stays the same, then United's problems are only going to get worse. And honestly, the club can't afford for that to happen. Not again. So, what do you think? Is Amorim right to stick to his principles, or does he need to show more flexibility? Are United's problems tactical, mental, or something deeper? Let me know in the comments below. I do read every single one. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button and subscribe for more United analysis. And if you want to see more tactical breakdowns like this, let me know what other teams or managers you want me to cover next. Until next time, keep watching the beautiful game.